My name is Cheryl Murray, and this webinar is titled Women Leaders, Career Success for Newcomers. And we will get started. Now, we are called Career Loans. We're funded by the Government of Canada, and we're coordinated by a company called Achēv, and our financial institution that we deal with is HSBC Bank. To read the land acknowledgement, Achēv acknowledges that the land on which we live, work, and gather, even virtually, is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. The land on which the region of Peel and the regional municipal of Halton operates is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations and Métis people. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, give our respect to its first inhabitants. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect for all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. Now, during this webinar, we'll have some interactions that you will be able to interact with us. At the end of the webinar, I ask you to use the chat and the question and answer feature if you have any questions during the webinar presentation, and we will address all those questions and answers at the end of the webinar. Also, just a bit of housekeeping as we trundle along. At the end of the webinar, I'm going to ask you to take a quick survey. Nothing that you need to write down here. We will send you the link, and it's a couple of seconds just to give us your feedback on your on the webinar. And this also helps us to improve our webinar, the things that we cover and the guest speakers that we have. So it's very valuable for us. So I will appreciate your feedback at the end of the webinar. So who is here today? There is myself. My name is Cheryl Murray. I am the Information and Financial Counselor with Career Loans, Saskatchewan. My partner in crime, which is Venus Sheffy. She is the Information and Financial Counselor for the Alberta province. And our guest speaker, which is Keri Schwebius. And I apologize for not saying, I think I did it right today. It's Schwebius. She is Saskatchewan chapter co-chair, Women in Leadership. So what is Career Loans? I have a short video that will explain a little bit, a couple of our testimonials. Have a look.
I'm Rianne Mendoza, and I came to Canada from the Philippines last year in November.
Hello, my name is Ifoma. I came to Canada June 2019.
My desired occupation in Canada is a privacy lawyer.
And my desire is to work as a medical doctor in Canada. The major challenge that I was facing was financial.
I don't have the sufficient resources in order for me to enroll.
I used part of the money that I got from career loans to register for the first part of the exams.
I was able to enroll in the training programs to become a privacy professional.
To buy a mini laptop that I would use to prepare for the exams.
To purchase all the required texts.
Ever since I applied to career loans, I can say that my career outlook is definitely brighter.
I am now more confident
because I've gotten the assistance that I needed. I've been able to register for the exams.
I'm getting emails, even calls from potential employers.
Yeah, I just feel like, I'm getting closer to my goal.
Thanks to career loans, I am now in my way towards my journey of becoming a privacy professional here in Canada.
Today's schedule, we will have the introduction for our speaker, and then we will have Keri's presentation. We will also have a short PowerPoint about how career loans can help. And then we will have the question and answer session at the end, and then we will wrap up the webinar today. So at this point, I will ask Keri to turn her camera on.
Hello.
Awesome. And let me introduce Keri, just one moment. So welcome, Keri. Keri is a certified executive coach and consultant with a Master of Arts in Leadership. She works with organizations and high achieving individuals who want to create better workplaces through effective leadership. She holds accreditations in change management, emotional intelligence, and team building. Keri has a genuine desire to make a positive change in the world, working with clients as co-chair of Women in Leadership Saskatchewan and as the chair of the board of directors of City Kids Regina. Welcome, Sherry.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's so nice to be here. And thank you, all of you, for coming today, for taking the time to watch. I have about a half an hour with you, and I'm going to talk to you about leadership. So in the chat, before we jump off, I just want you to introduce yourself, say hello, and tell me where you are located now. So where are you living now and where you are from? And we'll get to know each other a little bit while we get this started. So as Cheryl said, I am Keri Schwebius, and Cheryl did a wonderful job of pronouncing a very difficult last name. So thank you, Cheryl. I work as an executive coach. I am also a speaker. I'm an entrepreneur, facilitator. I've written a book, co-authored a book. And I am, as Cheryl said, a board member, but I'm also a mother and wife, and do lots of other things as well. So that is me. So here is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about this model for leadership. Now, to tell you a little bit about where this came from, my co-authors and I wrote this book. You see the little icon on the bottom there called Mind the Gap, Navigating Your Leadership Journey. And it was really to help people as they enter leadership roles or want to be more confident in leadership roles. And we were trying to figure out a way to organize the chapters that would make sense. And so we organized it into 4 different categories. And after the book was published, I started looking at this and thinking, this is really a model for leadership. And it starts with the focus on self, and then expands into leading others within a context, and then continuous growth. So I'm going to talk about these different areas today, And if you have any questions, I want you to hang on to them, and we'll make some time at the end for some Q&A. Now, this is going to be fun. I want you, if you have a mobile device near you, you can scan the QR code here, and it will take you to a website called WooClap, and we're going to do a little activity later. If you don't have a mobile device, you can actually type this URL into your browser, and it will bring up the same website. So if you want to go ahead and get that ready, and I'll put it up again later so you can do that. So let's start talking about leadership. So like I said, the center or the beginning of leadership is about focusing on yourself. And there's a number of things to think about when it comes to you as a leader. The first thing is to be really clear about your values. And when I did my master's degree, I actually had to sit down and articulate my values and what they were, what that meant to me, and how does they show up in my leadership. And when you're really clear about your values, you're able to demonstrate behaviors that align with those values, but you also can share those values with your team, and they know what to expect from you. It's also really good to know your purpose. So for me, the reason I started my company, the reason I'm a coach, the reason I do these speaking opportunities is because I want to make positive change for women in the world. When I read articles about 150 years until gender equity, it's so infuriating and so frustrating when I know that women are so much more capable than they are given credit for in leadership roles today. And so I am really clear about my purpose. And when I'm so sorry, I'm just going to mute my phone here so you can't hear it in the background. So when you're really clear about your purpose, you know what you're trying to do, and you are clear for others around you what you're trying to achieve. So it really drives you and motivates you and inspires you. Self-awareness. This is so important when it comes to leadership, because we can have the best intentions. We want the best for everybody around us, but we have to be aware about how our behaviors impact others. So, for example, I once worked with this executive, wonderful woman, was really committed to making employees feel like they were part of a family. She spent lots of time talking to employees. However, you would go into her office and you would end up talking to her for half an hour before you got any business done, which could be frustrating for some employees, especially if you've got a lot on your plate and you're trying to get things done. But she didn't understand the impact she was having, even though her intentions were really good. So understanding that impact that you have on others is really important. And there's a lot of ways to develop self-awareness, in terms of reflection, asking for feedback, doing assessments, all kinds of things. And the last thing when it comes to leadership is wellness. You cannot fill others from an empty vessel. And it's really important to take care of yourself. Do you eat well? Do you sleep well? Are you happy and engaged in your job? Because if you're not, then certainly the people that work for you won't be. So these are all things that are really important when it comes to leadership, focusing on yourself. So the next area, of course, is about leading others. So if you think about it, you can't be a leader if you have nobody following you. So it's really important to build relationships. And we're going to talk a little bit about this a little further down. We're going to talk about building trust. How do you build relationships with the people that report to you and your colleagues around you, and even anybody senior to you? And of course, communication. It is often the case that when things go wrong or something doesn't get done, it's because there wasn't good communication. Have you ever said the words, well, you didn't tell me that? Then you have been part of a miscommunication. So communication when it comes to employees is really important. You have to be clear to them. What is your vision? What are you trying to achieve as a group, as a team? What are your expectations of them? I work with a manager who is constantly telling me that, people have let her down. And she said, well, they should have done this and they should have done that. And I asked her, were you clear about that? Did they know what was expected of them? And it's not always the case. So communication is really important, and you have to be clear in that communication and consistent in that communication. The other thing, so I talked about getting feedback as a leader when you're focusing on yourself, but I want to share with you the idea of feed forward. So I say feed forward, it's not my term, but it's because when you talk about feedback, it's like looking back at something that happened, and we can't change the past, but we can learn from it. So feed forward is about talking to your employees about helping them reflect on what went well and what could be better. And what can they learn from that? So next time they do something, they've learned from the past and they do a better job. I also want to point out here a little bit about coaching. And this is a really new concept, relatively speaking, in the work world. But this is really about helping employees to achieve their potential. So quite often as leaders, we want to tell people what to do. We want to give them all the answers because we've been there, we've done that, right? We have that experience. But it's actually more helpful to them if we help them to figure things out for themselves. And the way we do that is through coaching, asking them questions. What are you trying to achieve? What have you already tried? What else might you try? What do you think will work? So through coaching conversations, we can really help people to figure things out for on that responsibility. And coaching is great because the result is once they figure out they can solve their own problems, they don't always come to you, which gives you more space and time, but it also makes them more effective in their jobs. So here's all these ideas about how do we lead others. So I want you to open the Woo Clap that you got before. And I'm going to share with you another screen. And we are going to go in here. How to build trust. Yes, so go ahead. You can enter as many words as you want. You can like other people's words as well. Action your promises. That is so important. Yes, being honest, listening, respect, transparency. Yes. Show appreciation, integrity. Fantastic. Okay. All right. Thank you for participating in that. And we're going to go back and we're going to talk about trust, because when it comes to leading other people, trust is integral. You cannot be an effective leader if you aren't able to build trust. So this is from Stephen Covey's book, The Speed of Trust. And he outlines these 13 ways to build trust. Now, if I were to go through all of these today, we would be here for a whole hour and for more than the hour. And I know that Venus has something she wants to talk to you about as well, so I'm not going to do that. But what I do want to do is to pick a couple of these and just talk a little bit about those. So the first one that I'll talk about is talk straight. So that's really about being honest, authentic, and forthcoming with employees. So employees sense that you're keeping something from them or if they sense that they only have part of the story or part of the information, they will start to fill the gaps with their own information. So as a leader, you want to be really forthcoming. And authenticity is about showing up as your authentic self. So for example, if a leader's having a bad day and they show up in the workplace and they're grumpy and miserable, then people have an interaction with them and those employees start to wonder, what's their problem? Or is it me? What did I do? And they start to worry about that. But if I show up to the office and I say, look, guys, I'm under a lot of stress. I'm having a really bad day. Please give me some grace. Then they know it's not them. And that helps to develop trust. The other thing that I want to talk about is accountability. So that's about holding yourself accountable. And I think somebody mentioned it in our word cloud was keep your commitments. So if you say you're going to do something, then make sure that you follow through with that. Because when you break commitments, you start to erode trust. And holding other people accountable, which is even more difficult. So when somebody is not following through on what they're supposed to be doing, if you don't have that difficult conversation with them, if you don't hold them accountable, then the impact is not just on you and that person, but also the people around them. And if you're not holding them accountable and making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, then all those other people are going to start to lose faith in you. And lastly, I want to talk about listening first, because listening is such an important skill when it comes to leadership. In fact, I think as a leader, you should be listening even more than you're communicating, and asking lots of questions and being really curious. So that's all I will talk about there around building trust. And we're going to move into leading in context. So we don't lead in a vacuum. If it was just you and a little team of people that you would have all kinds of control over, that would be, too simple. But life is not that simple. Life is complex, and you are working your team within a bigger department, within a bigger organization that operates within, maybe legislative boundaries within your country. So there are so many things that are happening, and there are so many stakeholders. So there's the management, there might be a board of directors, there might be like I said, legislators or government departments that you have to work with. There are shareholders, there are customers. So all of these people and functions have an effect on your team in some way, shape, or form. And what that's called is systems thinking. So what does your system look like? And what is the most effective way to influence that system? And when we think about leadership, we have to look at our team within a system. And the easiest way to do that is to draw it, to put it on paper so that you can see what are all the stakeholders, what are all the things that impact my team, and where am I able to influence? What things can I control? What things do I not have any control over? The next thing you want to think about when you're leading in context is you need to deliver results. So it's nice to have a great team. It's nice that you get along and work really well together. But at the end of the day, you're part of a business or some other kind of organization, and you need to deliver results. So how do you do that? How do you manage the work? How do you track progress? How do you hold people accountable to make sure that you're delivering results? The other thing that we know is there is always change. It's constant now, it's especially clear when we think about this last 2 years of this pandemic, and things have been changing constantly. The requirements have changed. Do we wear masks? Do we have access to vaccines? Travel, our ability to travel and move around has changed. It's constantly changing. And so in organizations, there are all kinds of things that are changing. The people are changing. Maybe the mandate changes, or maybe even just the software that you're using is changing. So it's important to understand, how do you manage that change within an organization? I could do a whole webinar about change, but I think the one thing that is really important with change is connecting people to that why. Why are we changing? Why should I change? What's in it for me? And then the last thing I want to talk about here in leading within context is corporate culture or organizational culture. And how do we impact that? So corporate culture can be by design or by default. And I would argue that most organizations, culture is by default. So it just happens. The way that we do things around here, which is culture, just kind of works out. And it might be a great culture, but when we think about it, culture contributes to the effectiveness of our organization. It even contributes to how much money we're able to make if you're in a business. And so we want to make sure that we have a constructive culture. And there's a whole bunch of ways that you can do this, but really it comes down to the tone that you set as a leader. So what are the behaviors that you demonstrate? And also, what are the behaviors that you tolerate as a leader? And those are the things that will set the tone for the culture. So that's about leading in context. And then I think this is so important when it comes to leadership, continuous growth. So some people get to a point where they're a leader, they're in a leadership position, they've done a great job so far, and they think, I've arrived. But that's not the case. You always have to be growing. Like I talked about before, change is continuous. So if we're not learning about those changes and adapting constantly, then we'll get to a point where our leadership is ineffective, and we don't want that. I had a boss once, and we had a not a great start to our relationship. We worked together for about 6 months, and we didn't have really any meetings. We had a few conversations here and there, just casually, but we didn't have any meetings for 6 months. I didn't know what was expected of me. I didn't have any direction from him. I had no support from him, nothing. And when I had finally had enough and I called him on it and we had a conversation, he said to me, I'm a good boss. There are people who have worked for me who say that I'm the best boss they've ever had. Some of them work in this building. You should go talk to them. As if their experience of his leadership could change my experience of his leadership. And what had happened was he thought, I'm a good leader, and he stopped working on it. But you always have to work on becoming better as a leader. So that can be personal development. And there's a ton of ways to do this. You can get formal education. So I decided to go and get a master's degree in leadership. That's not necessary for everybody, but there are options out there. There are webinars, there are courses. There's a 2-week program that you can take at Queen's University that focuses on leadership. There are shorter programs that you can take. You can read books. There are some wonderful books about leadership, and you can read articles. LinkedIn has so many articles about great leadership if you look for them. I read something new about leadership every single day. Feedback. So I talked about this when I talked about focus on self. Seek and consider feedback. It doesn't mean that you have to take into consideration and implement every piece of feedback you get, but ask for it. And I would do this on one-on-one meetings with my employees, and I would say, what am I doing that you want me to keep doing? What am I doing that you want me to stop doing? What am I not doing that I should start doing? How can I support you? and getting that feedback from them and learning what they needed from me so that they could be really effective in their jobs. Also, mentors, seek out mentors. There are formal programs where you can find a mentor, but there are also people who would love to mentor other people to share their experience and knowledge. It's such a fantastic opportunity, and having someone to talk to and confide in is really wonderful for leadership. So if you have the opportunity to have a mentor or even mentor others, that really contributes to your growth. And then finally, coaching. I'm a coach. I know what the value of coaching is. And it really gives leaders that space and that confidentiality so that you can take a look at what am I doing well and where do I want to get better and how am I going to do that? So lots of ways that you can continuously grow because you don't want to become irrelevant as a leader. So I just want to take a minute and talk a little bit about women in leadership, because that's how I became connected with Career Loans. So Women in Leadership is a national organization. It's been around for 20 years. It is a nonprofit and there is no membership. So if you're looking for development webinars, listen to some great speakers, you can become part of Women in Leadership. There is no charge. All you have to do is go to the website and you can sign up for their weekly newsletter and then follow them on LinkedIn and become part of that community. And they have speakers from all across Canada, and they're doing a lot of great work and research around women in leadership. So I encourage you to join that community. They are absolutely fabulous. I actually just became a part of that community last year and have started a chapter in Saskatchewan. So we're in the process of growing that in Saskatchewan. The local chapters, so there are chapters across Canada, like I said, and they each have a Facebook page. So if you're in Alberta or Saskatchewan or Manitoba, wherever you are, you can find your local chapter as well. So here's my contact information and my website. I own Elevate Executive Coaching. And I too have a biweekly newsletter that I send out about leadership, and you can sign up for that if you're interested on my website. And then last but not least, I have this book. So this is where I wrote with my co-authors, Doug and Heather. So Heather is an educator in Alberta, and Doug works in policing in BC, and the three of us put our brains together and shared all kinds of experience and knowledge about leadership and put it together in a book. So a lot of the things that I talked about today are part of that book. And so if that's something that you are interested in reading and learning more about, that's available on Amazon, or you can send me an email. And that is it for me today. Again, thank you so much for showing up today and taking the time to be here. And I hope you learned something.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Keri. That was very informative. Lots of food for thought. Awesome.
Thanks, Cheryl. My pleasure.
So we will now invite Venus, if you can get on. Hey, Venus.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Keri, for the great presentation, and thanks, Cheryl, for hosting. So I will be talking about career loans and how it can help. I'm going to just share my screen. Okay, so Career Loans is a program funded by Government of Canada, coordinated by Achēv and our financial institution partner, HSBC Bank. About Career Loans, it's a fully virtual service for internationally trained individuals in Alberta and Saskatchewan, providing free career counseling as well as access to a microloan and also guidance to the credential evaluation and recognition process. Some program features, absolutely free program and offered virtually. The loan is with the low interest rate of 4.45%. I'm going to get into the loan feature later, but the maximum amount of the loan is $15,000. The minimum is $1,500. We provide referrals to local employment services, guide to accreditation process, as well as if you are considering alternative careers, we definitely can discuss that with you. Who is eligible for career loans? Internationally trained individuals in regulated or non-regulated occupations and trades who are residents of Alberta and Saskatchewan with the status of permanent residents, Canadian citizens, and convention refugees. Unfortunately, at this time, we are not able to provide our services to international students as well as people who are on work permit. We require our participants to have a minimum Canadian language benchmark of level 5, because in case you're taking training, we want to make sure that you can communicate well and get through the training and complete it successfully. Some of the benefits if you become a member to the career loans is actually support services from our counselors, a personalized one-on-one session, which is offered virtually, in which we get to know you better, hear about your past experience and education, and also see what steps have you taken so far in your credential recognition journey in Canada, and then how best we can support you. So we provide an individualized action plan for you at the end of this session that gets emailed to you. As well as I said, everything is virtual. You have access to live webinars such as this one, as well as the guest speakers on relevant topics. You can also access our recorded past webinars. I strongly recommend you to go through them and see how you can use them. There is tons of great information on them. We also have an event calendar for your province if you want to see what's going on in terms of employment in there. So this infographic shows the process of information career counseling, as well as if you are considering taking out the loan. So once you locate your dream job and you plan on taking some training or certification, you can contact us, we get in touch with you, and then we set up that one-on-one session. So at that point, you can, if you need referral to the local services, we definitely can provide that. If you require funding, then we can move to the next step, which is preparing a loan application for you and basically support you throughout the end of the loan approval. How we can help is with providing one-on-one virtual counseling session, referral to the local service providers, as well as access to the microloan. Some features about the microloan: as I said, our financial institution partner is HSBC Bank. It is up to $15,000. The minimum is $1,500. The interest rate is 4.45%. The loan repayment can be up to 4 years. And throughout the approval process, even beyond that, you are receiving support from our counselors. Eligible expenses can be anything from credential assessment, accreditation, any training or breach program, material fees such as download links or books, and career-related fees such as exams, licensure, membership association, and union fees. And if there is anything that you're not sure that can be covered under the loan, you can always reach me. I am here to support. The program is free, offered virtually. And if you wanted to discuss your particular case, please get on our website. It is www.careerloans.ca. We can always chat about it. There is this is some impact report from our last year. Something I wanted to highlight in this, it is the contribution actually of healthcare workers. We supported 70 healthcare workers last year, 52 of whom were women, just in celebration of International Women's Day, which was yesterday, and we continue to celebrate it every day. I just wanted to highlight that. This is our contact information for Alberta and Saskatchewan. So like I said, if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer them. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you for watching. Back to you, Cheryl.
Yes, great. Thank you. Thank you, Venus. Thank you, Keri. I'm just going to share my screen for a second. So I just wanted to remind everybody about our upcoming webinar that we will be having on April 13th. We will be having a truck driving career for new Canadian webinar, and that will be at the appropriate time for Alberta and Saskatchewan, as you see there. And then just a reminder of the webinar survey that we will be sending out to you. And just ask that you participate, just doing a quick webinar survey just to get back to us. And then, of course, I'm going to open the floor for our questions. And I invite Venus back. So I'm going to, if you have any questions, I invite you to either put it in the chat or the question and answer, and we will definitely address those. But in the meantime, maybe Keri can expand a little bit more about the benefits of membership, or sorry, mentorship for new Canadians, for new Canadian women.
Mm-hmm. So many benefits for membership and for mentorship, sorry. And actually Women in Leadership has a mentorship program that is really fantastic. There are women participating right now across Canada, also into the US. And I think we have a few participants from Australia, which is wonderful. And what we do is try to match women with mentors who are either in their same field of business, of work, or maybe have a similar experience. So for example, you know, if you're coming into the country as a new immigrant, then you might want to connect with a woman who's been here for a while, who has had that experience and can share some of the knowledge that she's acquired in her time here in Canada and her experience. Because it is always valuable not to repeat somebody else's mistakes. And so we can learn from other people. And the wonderful thing about mentors is everybody wants to be helpful. Everybody wants to feel like they're able to give back and be of value to other people. So there are some really wonderful mentors out there who are just dying to help you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Lots of stuff there. I do have one question here. It's actually for Venus. Is this available in Ontario only? Or is this program available in Ontario?
Sure, and we actually have a similar program for our Ontario residents, professional newcomers. It's going by another name. I believe it's Accelerating Career Advancement. On Achēv website, you're able to find it. So they offer similar service, basically, in supporting professional newcomers to get back to their careers. Even if they're considering an alternative careers, I believe they can support as well.
Right. Thank you, Venus.
Sure.
So yes, I would definitely advise you, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. We can answer that, or in the question and answer feature. I think there is one that says, I wanted to know if the career loan's available. Yep, I got that. Okay, she's just saying thank you. Keri, I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to newcomer women that may be looking into going into a leadership position or some kind of profession in that way?
Mm-hmm. I think the best advice is to come in with curiosity and learn as much as you can and ask a lot of questions. There is, I think, for women in particular, but for anyone, when you come into a new role, you feel this immense pressure that you have to have all the answers or you have to be perceived as the expert. Otherwise, they're going to think that you don't belong there. But actually, when it comes to leadership, I think if you are curious and you learn, you will be more effective, and you will also let other people who you are leading, other people on your team, feel like they are contributing and they are being valuable as a member of the team. So my best advice is be curious, learn as much as you can.
Be inquisitive.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. So if, we're doing so great on time right now, it's amazing. Everything just went smoothly. Let's see, we have actually, any more questions? If anybody else have any more questions there? What I would definitely suggest, if you do leave this webinar and you have a questions, feel free to contact Keri or Venus or myself with any questions that may be delayed right now, that we can follow up with you with that.
So Cheryl, maybe I'll just add, there is a beautiful quote, which is quite often attributed to Maya Angelou, but has been said many times by many people over the years, about people won't remember what you said. They won't remember what you did, but people will remember how you made them feel. And I love to share that quote when it comes to leadership, because I always think about, how do I want people to feel when they interact with me? And honestly, I want people to feel seen, heard, understood, and valued.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of my very favorite poems as well from Maya Angelou. I have one question here. Someone's asking the importance of networking for leadership development.
Mm-hmm.
What is that, Keri?
Yeah, sure. So networking is really important for a number of reasons. First of all, we know that more people are hired because they know somebody than through the normal, send in your resume, apply for the job. So networking can have a huge impact on your career opportunities. And there are lots of ways to do that. You can volunteer in your community. You can join organizations like Women in Leadership, or say, for example, the Chamber of Commerce, or things like that, where you have opportunities to meet people. The other benefit of networking is having that community of support. So in particular, when it comes to women, it's important to have other women who know what you're going through, know the challenges that you're facing, and can be able to support you. Because there's nothing better than being able to talk to somebody who really understands your experience.
Beautiful. Great answer. Networking is always the key. It covers so much grounds when you're trying to move forward.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I'll say about networking, Cheryl, because I am an introvert, and I would say, a few years ago, that networking is one of my least favorite things to do. I don't like small talk. I don't like to go into a room full of people I don't know. It makes me extremely uncomfortable. However, I have changed my mindset around networking, and now I approach it with curiosity and excitement. And so I will, for example, if I don't have anything to talk about in terms, other than, hey, what about that weather? It's really cold, hey? Then I ask questions. I ask a lot of questions, and people love to talk about themselves. They love to tell you what they're up to. And so you don't have to carry the conversation. You just keep asking questions and learning more about them. And the benefit there is people feel seen, heard, and understood. And that makes them feel like you really care. Absolutely. And so that's how I now approach networking. And I enjoy it a lot more than I used to.
Absolutely. That's such a great point, Keri, because I can totally relate to that as well. Networking has been hard, especially if you're an introvert, but it gets easier the more you do it. It does get easier. And if you think of it, to me, sometimes with networking, if you think of it like become Google or become a live Twitter, sharing information. And if you approach it like that, now I'm a Google, or, approaching it other people like that, it gets easier. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. Of course, there's lots of introverts working in extroverted industries.
Yes.
Great.
I have a question, actually.
Absolutely.
I want to ask Keri, what are the things that we are not supposed to do when we are networking?
That is an interesting question, Venus. Is there something you have in mind that you're thinking about as you ask it?
So, we always hear about this, developing the soft skills, especially when you go to for newcomer clients, when they come to Canada, developing the soft skills in interview, everywhere you go, in workplaces. So then when we are talking about networking, I think one of the greatest fears is like, I don't want to do it because I might do it in a wrong way, because I don't know. I don't know enough about this culture. I may ask the wrong question. So that fear always creates that barrier that you don't really approach the person that may actually may be able to help you in a great way in terms of your career journey when you are settling in a new country.
Yeah.
So,
okay. I understand what you're trying to say here, Ben. So, and that's an excellent point, because you don't want to overstep, right? And so sometimes I'll ask permission to ask the question. So, do you mind if I ask you about, ABC? And then they have the right to say, yeah, that's kind of personal. I don't want to answer that. And then, okay, no big deal. And understand the boundary between personal and business, right? So what kind of work do you do, and where do you work, and how did you get into that? So those are really nice questions that you can ask and people want to talk about. But maybe say, are you married or you're single? That might be awkward. That might be something you don't want to ask about. So keep it professional. And the other thing I would say is to be aware of how much you're talking as well, right? So if you're sharing and talking more, then they're not having the opportunity to share and talk as well. So that's where the curiosity comes in, have that evenly balanced conversation where they are heard as much as they hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would, Keri, I would even add to that is to actually, you won't be perfect and everything will not go perfectly well the first time. It is just a matter of challenging yourself and pushing yourself to try it each and every time and go a little further. And keep in mind that balancing act.
Yeah.
That balancing act.
Cheryl, you make such a good point. You won't be perfect.
You won't be perfect.
Nobody's perfect. We're all human. We all say stupid stuff at some point. We all do stupid things at some point. And you know, that's it. We're human. That's what we do. But just keep trying. It's not about, you know, letting those things get in your way. Just do it anyway. I have an author that I really love, Mel Robbins. She wrote a book called The 5-Second Rule. And she also wrote a book called A High Five Habit. And she talks about how we get in our own way and how to get past that. And her trick is about counting backwards from 5. When something scares you or there's something that you don't want to do, count down from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and do it anyway. Yeah.
Do it anyway. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Keri. So if there is any further questions, like I said, residual questions that may come up, please connect with us, Keri, myself, or Venus. We will be happy to answer those questions that you may have. So in closing, Keri, any last words you'd like to share with us?
I just want to wish everybody all the best, and you know, join Women in Leadership. It's a wonderful organization and it's completely free.
Beautiful. And Keri, if I can ask you about Women in Leadership, is it just in Saskatchewan, Alberta? Is there one in Ontario as well?
They are all across the country. And if you join, you are joining the national organization, and then you can choose to participate in events that, well, for the last 2 years have been virtual. So everybody across the country is welcome to join.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, everyone. And have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.